John here. Here's Legato today, number 16. This is a legato run in E minor, and it says easy shred at the end of it. And what that means is that it's a bit less involved tempo-wise, and or the techniques are being used in the actual lick. And the reason why I wanted to do that, I'm not going to do it for every video, it's going to be whenever I feel like it, but I'm going to start adding these as well. Because I've gotten quite a few messages where people feel like, while they like the channel, it's a bit high level. And that's not to pat myself on the back, it's quite the opposite actually, because you kind of lose track sometimes when you do this for a long time, and you lose perspective on how hard things might be. And when I started out playing myself, I learned all the things that I wanted to learn, but I realized that it will probably take me a few years before I can even attempt to play this up to speed. But I didn't really care because I really wanted to do it, so I practiced a lot, and eventually I got there. But I think there's definitely a place for easier things, even though this is not an easy thing, because this style of guitar playing is not necessarily easy. But hopefully these phrases or licks that I'm posting under this sort of signature easy shred should be more approachable, even if you don't have years of experience here. I actually started thinking about it from a calisthenics perspective, because I'm really into that. And if I would find a channel where someone is really good at that stuff, but then I want to learn from that person, and all they're showing is like this high level planches and, you know, pushing into handstands and all that stuff without showing, you know, somewhere in between, that would be very hard to follow. And even though I would still look at that channel for inspiration, I would probably look elsewhere to fill the gap in knowledge. And I don't want people to have to do that, so I want to make sure that I have something for most people who are into this style. So in other words, if you see the term easy shred after the title of a lick, then you know what you're in for, and that it's going to be slightly simpler than the normal things that I post. With that said, as usual, you can find the link to the tabs in the description down below, and also here on the screen. And also, as usual, I'm going to start with a slow version and then break that down. So we start here on the low E string, 3rd fret. Alright, so this lick is based on the E Aeolian scale, and Aeolian is just a fancy name for the natural minor scale. So it's just 1, 2, flat 3, 4, 5, flat 6, flat 7, 1. It's like the quintessential heavy metal scale. And we start here on G, which is the flat 3rd. And as I play the pattern here, once you get that, you pretty much got the whole lick, because we're going to repeat exactly the same fingerings, only adjusting for the B string once we get there. But in terms of, if you look at it as 2 strings at a time, so you can see here we have 2 whole steps on both strings. So 3, 5, 7, 3, 5, 7. And then on the next set of 2 strings, we got 4, 5, 7. Then we repeat that whole thing starting on this G note. So we have exactly the same notes, exactly the same fingering. It's just that when we get up to the B string, we need to move up 1 extra fret. So again, we have 5, 7, 9 on D and G. And then we move up to the 7th fret, and we got 7, 8, 10 on both strings. And then we end up on 12 here. And this might be a bit stretchy, but I think you got it. Just take it easy. So again, from the beginning. Rhythmically it's quite easy because it's 6 notes per beat, and just having 3 notes per string really facilitates that. So you can go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. To sort of aim for the 1 the whole time. So you go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Then the next 1 is here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Or the next downbeat, that is. So. And then next one is here. And then 4th one is here. And then finally beginning of the next measure would be here. So if you can keep that in mind, it will be easier for you to speed it up, because you don't want to think about each note individually when you try to play it faster. As an example, if you think like note, 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 not only was that annoying to listen to, but it's very hard for your brain to keep up thinking about each note. Instead, I want to keep, if the tempo is here, I want to go note, 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 note. So I can basically keep I only think about the starting note on each beat, if that makes sense. So, because basically, math-wise, we've made it 6 times simpler, because instead of thinking of 6 notes, we're thinking of 1 note. 1 note out of every 6. So keep that in mind. I think you'll find that it's way easier to get a handle on this. What you want to focus on here, though, is that don't do this, because that won't sound very legato, and legato means connected, so you really want to have everything sound connected, not only on one string, but on string crossings as well. So, and a good way to practice that is simply to work on the string crossing. So you go, and a big part here is not over picking when you change strings. So that's why I tend to use hybrid picking a lot. But you can do this with anything really in this sense, because you have 3 notes on every string, so you have a lot of time to move the pick. But whatever you choose, make sure that you match the legato sound with the picked sound. So you have to pull back quite a lot on the right hand here. So. After that, we're gonna go down this E minor add 9 arpeggio. And that sounds super fancy, but the only thing we're doing here, we have an E minor arpeggio. And don't worry, I'm gonna show you what it looks like. But we're adding the 9th or the 2nd note of the scale. Yeah, this point and this point. So the E minor 9 arpeggio goes like this: 12-7 on the high E string, 8-7 on the B string, then we got 9 on the G string, 9 on the D string, and then finally we got 10-9-7 on the A string. And the way that I picked this in the fast version, at least, I believe I go up here with a downstroke. Down, pull off, up, pull off, up, 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 down, up. So. But also this changes the subdivision, so we're not doing 6 notes per beat here anymore, so we're going 4 notes per beat, so it's quite a lot slower. So if you're coming from here, it's a really good thing to work on for your timing anyway. So, and getting a handle on subdivisions is really important, and I think if you're not familiar with it, it's just how many notes you play per click, or your foot tap. And you should definitely tap your foot, because that's your connection to the beat. So even before you start messing around with metronomes, if you can't play something and just keep time with your foot, without your foot starting to follow what you're playing, you won't be much help by using a metronome, because the metronome is just another factor you need to consider. A metronome is great once you're in sync with your own body. So please start tapping your foot. If you have your guitar on the right leg like this, it's a good idea to tap your left foot. And to get used to these subdivisions, you can just, if you can count to 4, you're good to go to play 16th notes, and I hope you can do that. Otherwise, I'm pretty sure there must be some YouTube channel for that as well. But basically, just let the counting lead you, so you can slow it down as much as you want, and then you sort of physically smack down the foot on 1. So you can go, technically you could go, you can't hear my foot here, but I'm going to use my hand. So you could basically just start counting. So you go 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. And as long as you keep counting as evenly as possible, and you smack your foot down on 1, you're going to get the feel of the 16th notes. And obviously you want to speed this up, but if you start there, you can't really go wrong. So that's a really good way to getting used to these subdivisions. And that works for any subdivision. You know, you can do 5 notes per beat, 6 notes per beat, 7 notes per beat, 21 notes per beat, whatever you want. If you do 21 notes per beat, your name is probably Mike Mangini, but you should at least be comfortable with 1 through 8, in my opinion. So basically you should be able to play 1 note per beat, 2 notes per beat, 3 notes per beat, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. But that's for another video, but that's something you could shoot for anyway. So practicing this, fairly easy. If you're not used to this stuff, just take the first part. And do that. And it's a great idea to do this in 16th notes. So you can go 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. And as you do that, you're going to see that the 1 is going to move from this note as when you do it with 6 notes per beat. And it's going to go from 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. And this will probably confuse the hell out of you in the beginning, but that's good. So you need to slow down. So you can, really sit there and be like, okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. So basically will take you 2 repetitions before you're back with the beat on this note again. And you can do that for all groups of 6 here. So, and when I say all, I would even go start on this note, do that one, and then you start the next one. And then if you want to be really diligent, you can actually do this one, because that's also a shift, right? And that's a thing where a lot of people get into trouble. So it's actually a good idea to work on this, even though you get this repeated note, but it doesn't matter, it's just a practice, right? So if you do that, you would go 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. Then right? And for this one, you can break it down into beats as well. So you go 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. And then just combine it like that. And one of my favorite ways of practicing is, especially for something like this that's pretty short, you can just start where you're at, so where you learn it, and then you play it once or twice and make sure that it's perfect, and then you move it up a fret, and then it's perfect again, you move it up again, and you keep moving until you're basically out of frets here. That's a really good way to practice, because you get a much better understanding of the lick, because it's not about like, oh, it's that dot and that dot. You're gonna see how the scale shapes relate to each other. And also you're gonna experience the different tensions of the guitar neck and the different spacings. And that's really important for your overall technique. And if you made it this far into the video, I would like to say that make sure that you have a separate practice routine as well. You do not want to rely on licks to build your technique, because that's gonna be, even if it's a quite varied lick, it's very likely that it's not gonna cover ascending, descending, different picking combinations, different techniques, whatever you want to learn. It's very easy to get stuck with one lick, and it's a very limited amount of movements, and it's very frustrating then if you spend a lot of time on that, and then when you try to learn something else, there's very little carryover. But if you instead have a more of a systematic approach where you go through different scales or different patterns and keep working on your technique from that perspective, while at the same time also learning licks, because that's important, because that's ultimately what you want to be able to play. But see it as like being a football player or soccer player, where you need to go to the gym, you need to go out running, you need to all that stuff. You can't just play the game, because that's not gonna work very well. But you also absolutely need to play the game, because that's the whole point of it. But if you can put in some extra work outside of that, it will make the game way better. All right, so hopefully this was helpful. Let me know in the comments if you like these more basic videos. And it's not really basic, I know that, so don't feel like that I do not want this to come across as condescending in any way, shape or form, because just playing the guitar to any level is really hard. So the fact that you're trying to do this stuff is just very commendable. Even though, you know, there's no, it's probably not going to be any improvements in your love life or your bank account by going into shred guitar, but you know, it's very pure. You're just doing it for the love of it, so that's great. But if you have any questions, just post them below. Otherwise, hope you enjoyed this one, and see you in the next one.